right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a new Access team here. Not so much new, maybe just a little bit of a transition here. My name is Nicole Chilton. I am just one part of this incredible Access California team here at Cal Voices. With me as wonderful co-hosts, I've got Jocelyn Farrell and Grace Gallagher. So as I mentioned, we do have a little bit of a transition. Uh, Claire Courtwright, who was our advocacy director, who shared everything and anything with us related to all things behavioral health, and navigating this post Prop 1 era. So many of you were able to engage with her in person or via email or phone calls. She just loved this opportunity to connect with community. And she has actually moved on to doing work at the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. So she's just continuing to fight the good fight, the great big fight that she's done so well in this advocacy and policy world that she was here with us at Cal Voices. And so we're just so grateful to have had the opportunity to work with her and learn from her. And so our current Access California team, we're just really thrilled to be able to continue to move this forward. um, and what I will share with you right now is we're actually going to take a little bit of a step back. We're going to rewind this a little bit and do some level setting for us as a team because we are coming together and starting off this podcast as a newer team. So we want to share with you more about our organization, about our program, what we do, who we partner with, and what we're looking forward to be able to do in community and getting to know all of you. Um, so, with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Grace Gallagher to share a little bit more about our Cal Voices history.
Yeah, so Cal Voices is a nonprofit mental health advocacy organization. We are going on 80 years of experience with fighting for the rights and recovery of people with lived experience of behavioral health challenges. We are rooted in peer support, recovery-oriented care, education, and advocacy. Our mission really centers on empowering individuals through direct peer-led services and giving voice to those who are often left out of policy decisions that directly affect their lives. We serve communities across California, providing anything from Medi-Cal peer support specialist training to community and crisis intervention with our community support team, to consumer-operated warm line calls and resource navigation, and local and statewide advocacy efforts. Our mission as of now is to continue those advocacy efforts to establish what was once the Mental Health Services Act and now the Behavioral Health Services Act to be a system of equity, access, and inclusion. This has always been our mission and will continue to be our mission with these changes under Proposition 1. So a little bit about recovery. At Cal Voices, recovery truly is not just about symptom management. It's about reclaiming our power, purpose, and autonomy over our lives. Recovery truly is a self-directed journey that is rooted in hope and connection. And we truly believe that people seeking recovery shouldn't have to try to fit into a certain system, but our systems should evolve to support people where they are. Our work truly elevates the importance of lived experience as expertise in our field. We focus on removing barriers to accessing culturally responsive care and advocating for systems that support the whole person in all aspects of their lives while experiencing mental illness and substance use challenges. I would say peer support truly is the heart of our work. It means having people with lived experience walking alongside others towards their journey of recovery, not as providers or people of authority, but as equals who have been there and done that, per se. It really is about having people there for you who can say, I've been where you are, and I believe in your ability to achieve recovery too.
Thanks, Grace.
That's Cal Voices.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. And a group of people who are continuing to learn, continuing to level set, continuing to adapt to, as you mentioned, kind of this post Prop 1. What does it all mean?
Right.
Um, so, a little bit more about Access California. If you have heard of us, if you have been to any of our events, you've joined us during our quarterly training webinars. You may have wondered, what does Access actually stand for in Access California? So, Access stands for Advancing Client and Community Empowerment through Sustainable Solutions. And our program, Access California, is funded by Mental Health Services Act and administered by the Commission for Behavioral Health, formerly known as Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission. The goal of our program, Access California, is to strengthen and increase client participation in the state and local behavioral health advocacy and community empowerment by increasing knowledge base and skills to promote advocacy throughout the public behavioral health services. So you've heard me say over and over advocacy, advocacy. Grace shared a little bit about recovery and peer support. So I'm going to pass it back over to Grace to share with us more about advocacy, as it is a core competency of peer support.
Yeah, of course. So I'll explain advocacy kind of in a roundabout way, not its exact definition, but something we've always said in the mental health world is nothing about us without us. And really, what it means is that decisions affecting people living with mental health challenges and disabilities and substance use should not be made without our input and participation. No one knows what we need more than the people who are affected by mental illness, substance use, and disabilities. And this isn't to say that decisions aren't ever made without us, because oftentimes they are, but this has been the foundation of the Mental Health Services Act that we should be included, and our input isn't just important, but it's absolutely necessary. So, advocacy to me really is about using our voices and that experience to influence meaningful change, because I believe the people closest to the problem can also be the closest to those solutions.
Definitely. Um, your to your point of those of us closest to it may have those solutions. That's key to this effort. And within our advocacy efforts and Cal Voices, would you be able to share a success of what has happened?
Yes, for sure. There's been a lot, but I'll share one big one that we've had. So, when California first introduced the Behavioral Health Services Act, there was a major concern that people already receiving housing under the Mental Health Services Act dollars might be forced to go through a new eligibility determination process and potentially lose their housing support. So at Access, we advocated for and asked that DHCS provide a grandfathering clause that says anybody who is currently housed under the Mental Health Services Act will remain eligible without having to reapply or be reassessed as things shift to the BHSA. So this win was obviously crucial because it prevents unnecessary housing destabilization of people that are already being served and already housed. And it reminds us that our voices are important and they really can shape policy and just really prevent a lot of trauma that can be caused by overlooking these important, seemingly small, but very important details of policy. And this wasn't just about paperwork, it was about preventing real people from becoming unhoused due to bureaucratic changes. So it's a big win for us.
It's huge. It's incredible. Um, Really thrilled to be able to have that as a legacy, right? Um, Within advocacy, we have our wins, and then we have challenges, barriers. Let's be real here. It's advocacy can lead to some, rough patches. So, can you share any challenges?
Absolutely. I think there are many, many challenges to advocacy that, and I can't name them all, but there are three that are really big to me that stand out. So one being that there's still so much stigma and dismissal of lived experience. It can almost be even more traumatizing to advocate for our community because oftentimes, unless you have a degree or clinical experience, decision makers really don't see lived experience as a legitimate expertise. And the upsetting piece of that is that we can argue we are the most credible in this arena because we know what works for us and we know what doesn't. And contrary to belief, we do, a lot of us have degrees. And also, I'd say it's emotionally taxing and exhausting. I mean, you can talk to lifelong advocates in our community who are fighting to get back the rights they already fought for decades ago because things change on a dime with new government administrations. And it's really difficult to work to be an advocate when these systems have already harmed you in many ways. And lastly, I would say that government processes, bill language, and even showing up to hearings are all incredibly complex areas. And I think oftentimes it's designed that way to silence powerful voices, because if it's hard for us to give our input, then they won't have to listen to it. And I think that's why at Cal Voices, we really try to get our people involved by explaining the impacts in understandable ways and spreading news of our advocacy opportunities far and wide so that people do get a chance to be involved in those community planning processes that they deserve to be a part of, even though it's difficult to get into.
Definitely getting the voices together, lifting up and elevating. That is the movement. That is
Right,
what we are rooted in, right?
right. Exactly.
So, how do we do that at Cal Voices and through the Access California program? We have an incredible team to move us forward. We have wonderful leadership. Um, how do we do that throughout the state? Where where are we getting that support um, throughout Access California program? Jocelyn, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, so the way that we conduct local level advocacy throughout the state is in partnering with local level entities, which we call LLEs. And the LLEs, they represent the self-identified needs of consumer operated service providers and the needs of clients and consumers. And they represent these needs to the local level decision makers in their community. And these LLEs are also a really valuable source of information because they bring back this information to us. They bring the needs of the clients and the consumers um, and kind of what's happening at the local ground level, which then helps us inform our state level advocacy work.
Awesome. So we have these LLEs. How many LLEs do we have? What do they do? Where are they?
Yeah, so we have 12 LLEs this year. They're throughout the state in 5 different regions, starting all the way in the northernmost part of the state in Modoc County, all the way down to San Diego County. So in the Superior region, which is the northernmost part of the state, we're partnering with Sunrays of Hope, and they're representing the needs of really rural populations um, through their drop-in center and their wellness center. We also have Youth for Change, and they provide services to youth in particular throughout Northern California. And then in the Bay Area region, we have the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley, and they conduct advocacy work and provide legal services to people with mental illness. And then also Black Men Speak, and they're a peer-run organization out of Oakland, and their mission is to support and bring healing to the African American community. In the central region, we have Sustainable Wellness Solutions, and they're a peer-run organization based out of Sacramento with an emphasis really on sustainable approaches to wellness and peer recovery services. And they're a peer-run organization with wellness centers in Stockton, Manteca, and Lodi. Down in the Los Angeles region, we have mental health advocacy services, and they provide free legal services to people with mental illnesses. And Painted Brain, and they're a peer-run organization with an emphasis on providing community-based solutions through arts, advocacy, and enterprise. And then our last region is the Southern region. We partner with the Happier Life Project, and they represent the needs of those with substance use disorder, along with serious mental illness. Community Voices, and they provide peer support and community service navigation while also building networks of organizations throughout the state. Peer Voices of Orange County, they're a peer-run organization providing a wide range of services, but one of the areas they've conducted a lot of advocacy recently is with and for the hoarding community. And lastly, Peer Professionals of California, based out of San Diego, and they're a peer-run organization focusing on reentry and rehabilitation for the justice-involved population. So it's a wonderful network of agencies that we get to work with and learn from. and the passion that they have for their communities and those areas of expertise is just really inspiring.
I couldn't agree more. Having been in multiple rooms with all these individual organizations, whether it's when we go to their regions or we're all together in a room, it's so powerful and motivating and empowering, and the coming together to understand the changes that are coming through with the BHSA and just trying to level set together um, is an incredible, powerfully movement as we move forward through the rest of this year and heading into 2026, where those changes are really going to be implemented. And so, with their vast array of services throughout California, combined that strength and moving this advocacy effort over, I know each one of us are just so honored, really, to be able to work alongside these incredible LLEs. Um, I want to take us a little bit back to each of you and find out, we've talked about advocacy and how our LLEs are involved in our organization. Um, Joss, can you share a little bit about what inspired you to get involved?
Sure, yeah. So what got me interested in this work was my own lived experience with recovery from mental health challenges. And as I was pursuing recovery, it wasn't so much the medication or the services I was receiving through my health insurance that made a big difference. They definitely played a role, but it was primarily the social supports and the community supports that got me to where I am today. And so that's just something I really care about for my community, and seeing others have access to that same kind of social support and community support without stigma. And so as I've been in this work and just getting to know other people through our LLEs, meeting people at our events, um, just got to know a lot of people with really powerful journeys of recovery. And so I think that's just what keeps me coming back each day. Um, is getting to learn and hear from other people, and be inspired by the journeys that these people are on and the strength and the resilience that this community shows every day.
Thanks, Joss. Thank you for sharing a bit about your recovery journey and where you're at and how you got here. And I'm just so grateful to be on a team with you. um, Grace, can you share a little bit about your experience? What inspired you to get involved, or what have you learned so far?
Yeah, of course. So, both of you know how I got into this work, but I've been working for Cal Voices for 5 years now in various roles, and I got my degree in psychology. But truthfully, I've been in the mental health world since I was a little girl. My mom being Susan Gallagher and the amazing advocate and director that she's been for the last 30 years is truly my main inspiration. Just, watching her fight tooth and nail for this community my whole life, I don't think there was any possible way for me to not become passionate and deeply moved by the work that we do and that she has done. I would say it's in my blood at this point to care about advocating for the mental health community. And not only am I a family member of people with mental illness and substance use, but I've had my own challenges with mental illness throughout my life. And in the peer support world, that is a strength and an expertise, not a weakness. And that's just a really beautiful thing to get to be a part of. And as Joss said, when you just are engaging with our community and hearing those stories of recovery, it really just inspires you and makes it easier to wake up every day and want to be a part of this. So, yeah, it's beautiful to get to be a part of.
I couldn't agree more, Grace. Um, I share a little bit about what got me involved, what brought me here. I too have been navigating my own journey of my mental health and um, kind of rediscovering who I am in my mental health and taking ownership of it. Um, I would say I'm still in the earlier stages to be able to really even get through talking about my own, right? My own. Whew, I wasn't expecting this. Goodness. Just navigating it and finding out the how large this community is and just how loving and how much everybody just has this urge and this desire within them in their recovery and wherever they stand that we are in a room and we're meeting each other where we're at and advocating for one another and sharing resources when we get together in a room with our LLEs or even through Cal Voices and our Wise U training that we go into. And it's virtual, and I can still feel that connection and that power that we have within advocacy, within the peer support world, within our recovery. It just keeps me coming back for more, right? Every day is a brand new day to be able to, when we're in the depths of feeling like, what does this transition mean for our community? Finding our way through together and leaning on one another, leaning into the unknowns, leaning into the frustration, um, and really being able to say, you know what, we started as this grassroots effort. We are not gonna go away. So what are we gonna do about it? And just keep doing that. Um,
Right.
and being here in Sacramento, I've been in social services since 2013. That's where I started, and so moving over into the behavioral health world just felt like a natural transition. Um, Seeing the family dynamic and working in the prevention world just opened my eyes even more that there's this bigger advocacy piece that we need to be able to move forward to help encourage that recovery for our communities, for families, for our future. Um, and so I could go on, but I will stop there. Uh, Yeah, so I'm just really thrilled to be able to do this work with each of you and for anyone listening and joining us, we really want you to be able to be involved. So how do you get involved? How do you do this if you're not already? Um, how do you continue that? Grace, can you share a little bit?
Yeah, so there's plenty of ways for people to get involved with what we're doing here at Access. We have an email listserv, which they can join by accessing our website. And on that email list, they will receive newsletters and action blasts where they can directly write to their representatives with calls to action. We also have our Cal Voices social media, where all of our programs activities are posted. And we assemble as a community often to oppose and support certain bills at our legislature at the California State Capitol here in Sacramento. And we also host quarterly training webinars and policy updates where our folks can stay up to date on all of the changes happening to our communities and what impacts these changes will have. And we also host a number of in-person training and networking events where we can connect as a collective on advocacy efforts for our state. So we have our behavioral health transformation workshops in August through October this year, 2025. So please follow our updates via email through our website and social media. And we also have our annual statewide conference coming up in early 2026. So stay tuned for that as well. And also just please continue following this podcast. We may share information for call to actions from time to time and just join us and advocate when you feel so moved. And finally, please share this podcast with your peers, your family, and your friends. It really helps us get that vital information out to our communities for those most impacted by legislative changes and statewide policy. So, yeah.
With that, we've reached the end. Again, continue to join us, share, come back next time. We are going to discuss the power of peer support in the public behavioral health system. We'll discuss how the evidence-based practice is different from clinical services and benefits of integrating peer support services in public behavioral health service. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.